I wish you'd leave. Now.
Maxine, how are you?
Fine. You must be Pax.
You must be right. You're too lovely to be wrong. Here, let me take your surcoat.
Thanks. Hi, Ed.
Hello, Maxine. Come in.
Pax, you're wonderful. He's so glib, I'll bet he even has a sense of humor.
He'd better have. I paid extra for it. Say something funny, Pax.
Don't put me on, dear. I have a sense of humor, but I'm not creative.
Maxine, you're late.
Only 2 hours? For me, that's almost early. Really, I am sorry. I was called back to the office. A report came in that an R-34 had killed a human being. You can imagine what a stir that caused.
Craigus, your eyes are sticking out like a snail's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is my brother, Craigus.
Oh? I'm so happy to meet you. Esme's told me about you.
Well, she's never told me about you. I didn't mean that to be as tactless as it sounded. I only meant that if she had, I would have arranged to meet you sooner.
You did. At 6:33 last evening, outside Telefax.
I remember. I'm flattered that you remembered, too. Oh, and I want to apologize if I seem rude.
You should be flattered, Maxine. This is the first time I've seen the Craigus react as if a woman were anything other than a poorly designed man.
Between my career and my voluntary work for the Order, I haven't had too much time in my hands.
I'm surprised to find the flesh and blood are here. Is the Brotherhood becoming less hidebound?
What would you like to drink?
I'll have what the Craigus is having.
Coming right up.
Well, what kind of work do you do at Telefax?
Bottom rung, the routing room. But I'll have you know that I have 8 robots and a real live girl under me.
Most impressive.
And they've promised to promote me to research next month.
Maxine is an authority on political science. Her father's a director at the Ministry of Politics.
Something I've wondered about. Things are run by the hierarchy of ministries. What is the exact function of the Ministry of Politics?
For the coordination of the other ministries. Then, too, they service the selector.
Politics was once the means of choosing the leaders. Now, the machines do it.
Machines merely analyze the data given to them by us. The leaders are selected as a result of that analysis.
Do you know how the machine analyzes the data?
Well, no, not exactly.
Then how do you know if the father-mother uses all the data you give it? How do you know whether or not supplementary data is considered?
We don't.
Then you might almost say that the machines elect the leaders, that the Ministry of Politics is expendable. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm circuited to be logical and yet not to offend. That sometimes poses an insoluble problem.
I understand.
You see what I mean?
Please, I've given you a negative feeling. I must apologize.
Well, didn't you recognize that possibility?
I've embarrassed your guests. Shall I turn myself off?
You only said what I thought.
This is impossible.
Craigus, we fall in love when we see a part of ourselves reflected in another person. In the rapport operation, a part of me became Pax. I won't discuss this any further.
And I won't hear of it any further. I must go now.
May I go with you?
You find this atmosphere uncomfortable?
I'm fascinated by it. And by you. May I?
Would you?
But you just got here.
Esme, I know this sounds silly, but I really just came by to apologize for being so late. I'll come again later this week, and on time. It's almost 3 now. Congratulations. I know you'll be very happy.
Thanks, Maxine. There are still a few little adjustments to be made.
No. Pax was right. And so are you.
I hope I didn't.
You didn't.
This matter is far from closed. I'll speak to you tomorrow.
As different as our viewpoints are, psychologically, philosophically, in every way, do you think it will help any?
Craigus, please don't dislike me too much. Nobody asks to be created.
Good night.
Good night, darling.
What is it, dear? Darling, you're leaving me out of something.
I'm sorry. It's the sense of humor. It's a lot more difficult to control than pain.
Why are you laughing, Pax?
For the reason everyone laughs.
Pax, what is it?
Irony. One of the funniest forms of humor.
What irony?
I'm not permitted to answer. I'm contra-circuited. I don't want to make two mistakes in one night.
I'm offended by not knowing.
The knowledge would be more offensive.
Pax?
I love you, Esme.
Pax, what would you do if something happened to me?
I am you. Anything that happens to you happens to me. Oh, this covering, this housing might go on and on for centuries. Pax wouldn't.
I shouldn't have done that.
I thought you never would.
Then you experienced it, too.
Outside Telefax, there was a sort of tingle and then at Esme's, I felt a sensation of exciting attraction.
I'm not a young man. Pretty well past the age to contract, as a matter of fact. Well, I've never been affected like this before. I feel like a schoolboy. I can't stop looking at you.
I guess I always thought this was just something that always happened to someone else. It's like Esme said. You fall in love when you see some part of yourself reflected in another person. I love you, Craigus.
Don't, Maxine. I don't have the right.
The right?
When Esme and I were children, we spent the summers on our uncle's farm. It was near one of those old bombed-out cities. We used to sneak out and play in the ruins. Summer after summer, months, playing in ruins that were so hot with radiation that at night they shimmered in a blue light. No, I don't have the right to contract with a woman who might produce children.
But there are artificial means.
When Esme signed her report papers, she had to agree to submit to that. Contracting with me would be like going in rapport.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, it would. Sure, they say the birth rate is 2.8 per contract, but over 25% of the newborn are useless mutants. The average rate is 1.4 per union. We're losing ground. We're in a headlong race towards disappearance. Machines will take over soon enough. As a man, I have to forestall that as long as I can.
Craigus? Will you contract with me?
It's impossible.
How much longer would our 1.4 offspring extend the human race?
The robots aren't bad, not really. It's just that man can't see himself supplanted without putting up a fight.
I don't understand your prejudices, your ideals, but I'll try. I want to be with you forever.
Darling, I'll go anywhere with you.
Oh, dearest. Anywhere.
One thing. Do me a favor?
What?
Tell me your last name.
On one condition.
What?
Tell me your first.
After you.
It's Megan.
It's Kenneth, or it was. When my father died, I dropped it. I became the Craigus.
Maxine Craigus.
Charmed, I'm sure.
Wife of the Craigus. Rating. What is your rating?
You're on 8.
Gerontologist 8? That high? You're wonderful. No? I took quite a chance. You might have been electronics or electrical engineer.
I'm just a nursemaid to a Mark 201 computer, trying to add a few extra years to our miserable span.
You're something of a contradiction.
How?
Your work in gerontology deals with extending our lifespan as long as possible. And yet your hobby, the Order, is concerned with eliminating the robots. They last over 200 years, twice as long as we do.
You think I'm taking my professional frustrations out on the robots?
Are you?
I've been a member of the Order over half my life. My father... We don't object to the robots as such. We only hold the humanoids are unnecessary. They're soulless, godless imitations of man. And in that form, they are not needed.
Well, I'd much rather work with a humanoid in the office than have all those little machines chugging about.
If those little machines didn't resemble us, it would never occur to them to try to replace us.
But how can we criticize the design? The Institute teaches that the human body is one of the most efficient forms of machine.
Well, for general usage, yes, but robots by their function should be specialized.
Why?
Because we can't let them get too far ahead. Frankly, we can't compete with them.
So you take your ball and go home. Why compete? Why not just relax and enjoy them?
Well, that's exactly the attitude the Order's trying to combat. It's shared by the police, the ministries, and the majority of the population. We of the Order seem to be the only ones that realize the danger. We recently discovered a most disturbing fact.
And what was that?
The robots are organizing a pseudo-religion. They refer to their recreation centers as their temples, the master computer as the father-mother. When they report there for their periodic rechargings, they receive as well all the information given the computers for analysis in the interim.
But doesn't that mean that within a year, every individual robot will be in possession of all the knowledge in the world?
Exit humanity.
But they can only operate in our benefit. Well, that's Rule 1 in the manual.
Tonight, for the first time in history, a robot killed a man. Rule 1 must no longer exist.
Are you always so gloomy?
You don't worry about things like this, do you?
Well, I would if I thought it would help. Do you want me to?
I don't want to change the thing about you. Do you know it's almost 4 o'clock?
We should be going.
What are you going to do about breakfast?
I'm going to eat it.
Not alone.
Of course not.
What's the matter?
I don't know. I feel strange. Afraid. Someone's watching us from out there. Somewhere out there in the shadows.
Craigus, Miss Megan, will you come with us?